It was a sunny afternoon in New York City, the kind of day where the bustling streets seemed to move in perfect harmony with the hum of activity. People were on their way to meetings, tourists snapped pictures of the towering skyscrapers, and street vendors shouted out their wares to anyone passing by. The city that never sleeps was, as always, awake, alive, and full of stories waiting to unfold. Among the sea of faces, one person stood out. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, had just arrived in the city for a meeting with investors. He wasn't the type to make a big public spectacle of himself, but on that day, something felt different. Maybe it was the warmth of the sun, or maybe it was the weight of the decisions he had to make. Either way, as he strolled down Fifth Avenue, he didn't mind that a few curious eyes were following him. After all, he was used to it. But as he walked, something unexpected caught his attention. Sitting on the edge of a park bench, a man with unkempt hair and a weathered face was eating a sandwich. His clothes were old and his shoes were falling apart. Yet there was something peaceful in the way he ate, as though he was savoring every bite despite the circumstances. Elon's eyes locked onto the man for a brief moment. The homeless man seemed to sense someone was watching him, and he looked up. Their gazes met, and for a moment Tom seemed to slow down. The man didn't ask for anything. He didn't plead or beg. He just stared at Elon with a quiet understanding that only a few could recognize. After a few seconds of silence, the man broke the stillness with a soft voice. "Hey there, you look like you could use a bite." Elon chuckled, taken aback by the unexpected comment. He wasn't used to strangers offering him food, especially not someone who appeared to have so little. "I'm good, thanks," he replied politely, preparing to walk away. But there was something about the man's demeanor that made Elon stop in his tracks. Maybe it was the calmness in his voice or the gentle way he spoke, but for some reason, Elon felt compelled to stay for a moment longer. The man took another bite of his sandwich and then, almost as if he were thinking aloud, he said, "You know, I've had a lot of things taken away from me in life. But I've still got the sandwich. If you're hungry, I'd be happy to share." Elon stood still, taken aback by the generosity in the man's offer. The homeless man, with nothing to his name, was offering him half of his meal. A simple act of kindness, but one that spoke volumes. Elon had been accustomed to wealth, technology, and success, but in that moment he realized something. This man, with so little, was offering him what he could. And in a world where people constantly took, the act of giving, no matter how small, was a rarity. "I don't know what to say," Elon finally replied. "But, thanks. That's really generous of you." The homeless man smiled, a crooked but genuine grin. "You can say yes or you can say no. It's up to you. But I figure, why not? We all need a little help sometimes." For a brief moment, Elon hesitated. The world he lived in was full of business meetings, tech talks, and grand plans for the future. He had flown across the country in his private jet, met with billionaires, and rubbed elbows with some of the wealthiest people on the planet. Yet here he was, standing on a sidewalk in New York, faced with a homeless man offering him half of a sandwich. It was a moment of vulnerability. A moment where all the riches in the world seemed meaningless. And without fully realizing it, Elon found himself sitting down next to the man on the bench. "All right, you've convinced me," Elon said with a smile, accepting the sandwich. "Thank you." The man handed him half of the sandwich, and the two of them sat there, eating in silence. The world continued to move around them, cars honking, people talking on their phones, the occasional siren in the distance. But in that small corner of Fifth Avenue, something profound was happening. Two people from entirely different worlds sharing a simple meal. As Elon chewed the sandwich, he couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for this unexpected encounter. The food wasn't gourmet, nor was it anything special. But it was a reminder of something much bigger than the tech industry or his empire. It was a reminder of the power of human connection, of kindness in the most unlikely of places. After a few minutes, the homeless man finished his half of the sandwich and wiped his hands on his pants. "I'm glad you said yes," he said, looking at Elon with a twinkle in his eye. "Sometimes people forget that we all need each other." Elon nodded, feeling a lump form in his throat. He hadn't expected this. He had come to New York for business, for meetings, for growth. But what he had found in this unexpected meeting was far more valuable than anything money could buy. And with that, the encounter took a turn that neither of them could have predicted. As the last bite of the sandwich disappeared, Elon leaned back on the bench and glanced around at the busy street, lost in thought. For a moment, it felt as though everything around him, the hustle, the pressure, the constant rush of life, had faded into the background. He wasn't thinking about the next big move for Tesla or the challenges with SpaceX. Instead, his mind was fixed on the conversation he had just had with a man who seemed to have very little, yet had shared it all with him. The homeless man seemed to sense that Elon was deep in thought. He looked over at Elon and gave a knowing nod. Life can be funny that way, can't it? People think the world is all about what you have. But I've learned that it's about what you give, even if it's just a little bit. Elon, still processing the encounter, met his gaze. I think you might be right, he replied. But sometimes it feels like giving is so difficult when the world around you is always taking. It's hard to know where to start. The man shrugged casually, his fingers tapping on the edge of the bench. The world takes, sure. But it's the giving that makes the difference. Even if it's just a moment. You don't have to change everything, just one thing. One action. One connection. You never know how far it can go. Elon found himself nodding in agreement, but he was also struck by the simplicity of the man's words. How many times had he been wrapped up in the pursuit of success, chasing after bigger deals and groundbreaking inventions, all while overlooking the smaller, quieter moments that held the true value of life? In that moment, something clicked inside him. Perhaps the pursuit of wealth and power wasn't the ultimate goal. Maybe there was something deeper, something more human that he had been missing. The man paused as if weighing his next words carefully. You look like a man who's got the world at his feet, he said. But I can tell you're searching for something. I've been there. You won't find it in all that fancy stuff, though. It's not in the rockets or the cars. It's in the moments, in the people you meet along the way. Elon was taken aback by the insight the homeless man seemed to possess. Here was someone who, by all accounts, had nothing to his name, yet was speaking with the wisdom of someone who had seen the world in its entirety. Elon had read countless books, listened to motivational speakers, and surrounded himself with people who had achieved great success. But none of them had spoken with such sincerity. It was as if the man was offering him a perspective that he had never considered. A perspective grounded not in wealth or status, but in human connection and compassion. You know, Elon said, leaning forward slightly, I've been so focused on creating the future, on making a difference with technology, that I've sometimes forgotten about the people in the present. I've neglected the little things, the connections that can make life meaningful. The homeless man smiled again, this time with a softness that seemed to come from deep within. That's the thing. It's not the big changes you make in the world that matter most. It's the small ones, the quiet acts of kindness, the moments where you choose to see others as human beings and not as problems or obstacles. You can change the world one small step at a time. Elon sat in silence, absorbing the weight of the man's words. The man had given him so much more than a sandwich. He had given him a perspective on life that had been missing from his own. The truth was, Elon had spent so much time looking toward the stars that he had lost sight of the people beneath his feet. I've been so caught up in my own world, Elon continued, his voice low. I think I've lost sight of what really matters. Maybe it's time to refocus. The homeless man simply nodded as if he had been expecting this revelation all along. It happens to the best of us. Sometimes you just need someone to remind you of the simple truths. The two men sat in companionable silence for a few moments. The noise of the city continued around them, but in that moment it felt as though time had slowed down. It was as if the entire universe was holding its breath, waiting for something to change. Finally, Elon stood up from the bench, his mind racing with new thoughts and ideas. He glanced down at the homeless man, who was still sitting calmly looking up at him. You know, I'm not sure I can ever repay you for this moment, Elon said. But I'll do my best to make the world a better place, not just through technology, but through small acts of kindness too. It's the least I can do. The homeless man chuckled softly. You don't have to repay me. Just take it with you. That's enough. Elon reached into his pocket and pulled out $100 bill. He handed it to the man, but the homeless man held up a hand to stop him. I don't need your money, he said gently. I've got what I need right here. It's not about money. It's about what you do with the time you have and how you make others feel. Elon paused for a moment, looking at the man with a new understanding. He didn't press the issue. Instead, he gave the man a nod of respect. Thank you, Elon said, before turning to walk away. As he walked down Fifth Avenue, his mind was a whirl of thoughts. He had just had one of the most eye-opening conversations of his life, and it had come from someone who, by all measures, had nothing. Elon had come to New York to meet with billionaires and investors, but it was this homeless man who had given him the greatest lesson. And just before he turned the corner, Elon looked back as if to see if the man was still there. The homeless man was still sitting on the bench, eating his sandwich with a quiet sense of contentment. Elon smiled to himself and continued walking. He knew deep down that he had just experienced something extraordinary. something that could change his life forever. The next few days passed in a blur for Elon Musk. The meetings in New York went as planned, but his mind kept drifting back to that quiet bench on Fifth Avenue, the homeless man, and their conversation. The encounter had left an indelible mark on him, far beyond the transactional nature of the business world he navigated daily. He found himself thinking more about the human connections that had been absent from his life, the simple gestures of kindness that seemed to transcend all the wealth and success he had accumulated. It was one evening after a particularly long day of meetings and presentations when Elon found himself sitting in his hotel room staring out of the window at the sprawling city below. The twinkling lights of the skyscrapers reflected his own sense of introspection. He had always been driven by the idea of pushing the boundaries of technology, of reaching for Mars and revolutionizing the automobile industry. But that afternoon, as he sat in his quiet room, he began to wonder if there was more to life than just the relentless pursuit of progress. The homeless man's words echoed in his mind. It's not the big changes you make in the world that matter most. It's the small ones, the quiet acts of kindness. Elon thought about his team at Tesla, SpaceX, and his other ventures. They were all brilliant, talented people working toward a common goal, creating groundbreaking technologies that would change the world. But had they, too, become so focused on the future that they had lost sight of the present? Had they become so obsessed with innovation that they had forgotten the very human element of their work? That night, Elon couldn't shake the feeling that he had been given a gift. The encounter with the homeless man wasn't just a random moment, it was a call to action. He realized that his success, while incredible, had come at a cost. A cost that might have been too high in the grand scheme of things. Perhaps it was time for him to reevaluate his priorities. The next morning, Elon made an uncharacteristic decision. Instead of heading straight into another round of meetings, he decided to take a walk around the city. He didn't have a destination in mind, but something about being on the ground, surrounded by people, felt necessary. He needed a different perspective, something more grounded and real than the polished world of boardrooms and financial reports. As he walked through the streets of New York, he came across a group of volunteers handing out food to the homeless. A small part of him smiled at the coincidence. He approached the group, introducing himself briefly as Elon. They welcomed him without hesitation, as if his name meant little compared to the work they were doing. Elon grabbed a few sandwiches and began distributing them to the people sitting on the sidewalks. He felt a sense of connection to these individuals, a deeper understanding of the struggles they faced. One of the men he offered food to looked up at him, his eyes filled with surprise. "You're Elon Musk, right?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Elon nodded, smiling. "Yeah, I am. But today, I'm just another guy handing out food," Elon said, trying to downplay his status. "We all have our struggles, don't we?" The man stared at Elon for a moment, almost as if processing the fact that the billionaire CEO was standing in front of him, handing him a sandwich. "I never thought I'd see the day," the man said, shaking his head in disbelief. "But you're right. We all have our battles." Elon spent the next few hours helping the volunteers serve the homeless. It wasn't about making a statement or getting publicity, it was about reconnecting with the humanity he had so often overlooked. For the first time in a long time, he felt truly present, not as a CEO or a tech mogul, but as a man doing something good for someone else. When he finished, Elon sat down on a nearby bench to catch his breath. As he rested, he couldn't help but think back to the homeless man he had met on Fifth Avenue. The words they had exchanged seemed to reverberate in his mind, louder than ever. A few weeks later, Elon decided to take the idea further. He wanted to do something that would make a real, lasting impact, not just in the world of technology, but in the lives of the people who needed it most. He reached out to several charities and nonprofits that focused on homelessness, mental health, and poverty. Elon wasn't interested in just throwing money at the problem, he wanted to get involved in a meaningful way. His team at Tesla and SpaceX were initially surprised by the shift in his priorities. They were used to Elon's intense focus on space exploration and electric cars. But they could see the change in him. He was becoming more interested in the small, everyday actions that made a difference. He wanted to use his resources to tackle the social issues that had long been ignored, and he was determined to do it in a way that would have a lasting effect. Over the next several months, Elon launched a series of initiatives aimed at addressing homelessness and poverty in the United States. He partnered with local organizations to build shelters that provided not just a roof over people's heads, but also job training, mental health services, and resources to help them get back on their feet. He also pushed for more public awareness about the importance of affordable housing and the need for a better social safety net. But the most profound change came in his personal approach to life. Elon began to see the world through a different lens. He made a conscious effort to engage with people on a personal level, to listen, to connect. He didn't just want to change the world with his technology anymore, he wanted to change it with his actions, his kindness, and his humanity. The ripple effect of that simple encounter on Fifth Avenue spread far and wide. In a world where billionaires often seemed distant and disconnected, Elon Musk had become someone who not only led in the realm of innovation but also cared deeply about the people who needed help the most. He had learned something vital that day, the beauty of giving, not just in grand gestures but in the quiet, humble acts that often went unnoticed. The homeless man who had shared half a sandwich had given Elon Musk something far more valuable than a meal. He had given him a new way to look at the world. And that change, however small, had the potential to create something beautiful. As the months passed, Elon Musk continued to weave the lessons he had learned into the fabric of his personal and professional life. It wasn't just the shelters or charitable initiatives that marked his new approach, it was how he began to lead and interact with the people around him. Tesla and SpaceX employees noticed a subtle shift in Elon's leadership style. Gone were the intense, unyielding demands that had often characterized his management approach. Instead, Elon became a more empathetic figure, one who took the time to listen to his team, to understand their struggles, and to support them not just as employees, but as human beings. At Tesla, Elon initiated a new program called Tesla for All. It aimed to ensure that employees at all levels, regardless of their role or background, were provided with opportunities for personal growth, mental health support, and financial literacy education. He believed that innovation wasn't just about technology. It was about nurturing people who could create the future together. One day, during a routine all-hands meeting at Tesla, Elon stood before his employees, his demeanor more relaxed than it had ever been before. He wasn't talking about the next big breakthrough or the company's financial performance. Instead, he began by telling them the story of the homeless man on Fifth Avenue, the man who had shared half a sandwich with him and, in doing so, had altered the course of his life. Elon spoke candidly about his experience, admitting that for so long he had been consumed by the pursuit of grand, world-changing goals, often losing sight of the simpler, more meaningful moments that made life worth living. He confessed that his focus on technology had, at times, caused him to neglect the human aspect of leadership and innovation. I realized that as much as we strive to change the world with our technology, Elon said, looking around the room, we also need to change how we treat each other, how we value each other. The world needs more than just breakthroughs in space and cars. It needs breakthroughs in kindness, in empathy, in the way we build relationships. The room was silent as his words sunk in. It wasn't often that Elon Musk, the billionaire tech mogul, spoke so openly about vulnerability and the importance of human connection. Employees felt an energy shift in the room, a sense that they were no longer just working for a company but part of a movement that was bigger than products and profits. They were part of something that sought to make a real difference in the world. The ripple effect of Elon's transformation began to spread across Tesla's culture. Employee engagement increased, and people began to talk more openly about their personal challenges, mental health, and how they could support one another in the workplace. There was a renewed sense of purpose, not just in terms of creating electric vehicles or advancing space technology, but in building a work environment where people felt cared for and valued. At SpaceX, Elon took a similar approach. He began to personally mentor young engineers, not just in the technical aspects of space exploration, but in how to deal with the immense pressure that came with such high-stakes work. He emphasized the importance of balance in life, of taking care of mental and emotional well-being while pushing the limits of what was possible in space technology. One of Elon's most notable initiatives at SpaceX was the SpaceX Fellowship, a program designed to offer financial and emotional support to families of employees who had been struggling. Elon knew that the pressures of working at SpaceX, where the stakes were literally out of this world, could sometimes take a toll on families. This program aimed to ease that burden, offering counseling, financial assistance, and a direct line to Elon himself for those who needed guidance or a listening ear. But it wasn't just his companies that felt the impact of his newfound perspective. Elon's personal life began to reflect his commitment to human connection. He started spending more time with his children, and he made a point of attending school events and participating in community activities. He took a step back from the relentless pursuit of success and started to engage in the quieter moments that brought joy and fulfillment. One evening, as he sat with his children in a park near his home, watching them play on the swings, he thought back to the homeless man on the bench. That moment had been the catalyst for a transformation that had touched every part of his life, his business, his leadership, his family life, and even his personal happiness. It was a reminder that sometimes the most profound changes came not from the grand, sweeping efforts, but from the smallest, most unexpected encounters. As the years went on, Elon's story continued to evolve. His initiatives in the realm of homelessness grew, with Tesla for All and SpaceX Fellowship becoming models for other companies to follow. His companies not only revolutionized their respective industries, but also set a new standard for how businesses could contribute to social good. In the public eye, Elon Musk was no longer just the eccentric billionaire genius. He was a visionary who understood the importance of humanity and compassion in building a better future. Yet, through all his achievements, Elon never forgot the homeless man who had given him half of a sandwich. That moment continued to serve as a reminder that no matter how far we go or how much we achieve, the most important thing we can do is show kindness to those around us. The world could be changed not by what we take, but by what we give. It had been a few years since Elon Musk's life was forever changed by that simple, unassuming encounter with the homeless man in New York. The world had continued to evolve, with SpaceX pushing the boundaries of space exploration and Tesla leading the way in sustainable energy. Yet, despite all his success, Elon felt something inside him had shifted permanently. Something far more profound than any of his technological triumphs. He had come to realize that while pushing the boundaries of innovation was important, true fulfillment came from the quiet moments of connection with others. That realization had opened up new possibilities, not just for him, but for those around him. Elon's transformation was visible, not just in his actions but in the way the world viewed him. He had become a symbol of what it meant to balance ambition with compassion, technology with humanity. As part of his ongoing commitment to addressing the root causes of homelessness, Elon announced a new initiative, one that would be unlike anything the world had seen before. He called it the Bridge Project. This ambitious new venture was designed to not only provide temporary relief for those without homes, but to also give them the tools to rebuild their lives from the ground up. The Bridge Project wasn't just about shelters or food, it was about creating a long-term ecosystem of support that integrated education, mental health services, job training, and even affordable housing. The project aimed to be a comprehensive solution to homelessness, with a focus on giving individuals the chance to regain their independence and dignity. But Elon wanted to do more than just give financial resources. He wanted to be personally involved, to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. He visited the shelters, spoke with the people living there, and listened to their stories. And, just as importantly, he worked with his team to build relationships with local businesses and other organizations, ensuring that the program could sustain itself over the long term. The initiative received widespread attention, but it wasn't just the media coverage that mattered. The true impact came from the people who were able to turn their lives around because of it. Many of them found stable housing, jobs, and a renewed sense of hope. They became part of a network of people who believed in second chances, and they began to pay it forward, helping others who were still struggling. Through the Bridge Project, Elon Musk had created something bigger than just a corporate initiative. He had built a community, a movement that transcended wealth and social class, a reminder that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, deserved a chance at a better life. As the years rolled on, Elon continued to speak out about the importance of empathy, kindness, and support for the most vulnerable in society. He became an advocate for policy changes that addressed homelessness on a national scale, lobbying for increased funding for mental health services and affordable housing. His influence was no longer limited to the tech world. He was shaping policy and inspiring others in positions of power to take action. It wasn't long before other billionaires and philanthropists began to take notice of Elon's approach. They saw the success of the Bridge Project and the lasting changes it had brought about in the lives of so many people. Some joined Elon in his efforts, while others created their own initiatives to tackle social issues. The ripple effect was undeniable. Elon had become a leader not just in technology, but in redefining what it meant to be a billionaire in the 21st century. But for Elon, the greatest reward came not from accolades or recognition. It came from knowing that he had made a tangible difference in people's lives. Every success story that came out of the Bridge Project was a reminder that it wasn't the grand gestures of wealth or power that mattered the most. It was the simple, everyday acts of kindness that created real change. One day, as Elon was attending a meeting in San Francisco, he received a phone call that would bring everything full circle. The voice on the other end was familiar, and for a moment, Elon was taken aback. "Elon," the voice said, "it's me, the guy you met in New York, the one with the sandwich. I never thought I'd hear from you again, but I've been following everything you've done with the bridge project. I'm clean now, got a job, and I've been working at a shelter for the last year." Elon's heart swelled with emotion as the man continued. "I just wanted to thank you. Not just for what you did for me that day, but for everything you've done since then. You showed me there's more to life than just surviving. You showed me I'm worth something." Elon took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had thought about that moment on Fifth Avenue countless times, but hearing the man's voice again, knowing how much his life had changed, brought the full weight of his journey to the forefront. "You don't have to thank me," Elon replied, his voice steady but filled with genuine warmth. "You did it. I just gave you a little nudge. You're the one who turned your life around." The conversation ended with promises to meet up soon, but as Elon hung up the phone, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The journey he had started that day in New York had taken him to places he never could have imagined. And yet it all came back to that simple, beautiful gesture, the sharing of a sandwich. Elon Musk had built rockets, changed industries, and revolutionized the way we thought about the future. But perhaps the most important thing he had done was to show the world that success wasn't just about what you achieved for yourself, it was about what you gave to others along the way. With that, the story comes full circle. Elon Musk's journey of transformation from a billionaire tech mogul to a humanitarian leader serves as a powerful reminder that even the smallest moments can lead to profound change. It is a story of redemption, connection, and the beauty of kindness, showing that no matter where you are or what you've achieved, there is always room to make the world a better place, one small act at a time.